Okay, so we've talked about the differences between having buyer agents and seller agents. So let's break that down real quick. And then I want to take an opportunity to kind of go over different ways you can do this, right? So there's you. Let's erase that for a second. There's you. You're the team leader. You're the rainmaker. You're the boss. You're the one that brings the business to the table. And then there's a buyer side in every real estate business, and there's a seller side in every real estate business. And what some team leaders will like to do is have buyer agents and seller agents. Now, this can start off at different stages. For instance, you don't need to bring on a buyer's agent immediately. You could bring on a buyer agent assistant. That typically would be a brand new agent, and they would get a smaller share of the pie, sometimes 10 to 15% of the pie, because the only responsibility the buyer agent or the buyer assistant has is to go show properties. That's it. You handle everything else, the cultivation of the client, getting them pre-approved, and then the buyer's agent takes over, goes shows properties. Once that's done and they've elected to purchase one of them or submit an offer on one of them, you would write that offer, you would submit that offer, you would handle all negotiations, and you would meet them at the closing table. Because the buyer's assistant only does that, typically it's 10 to 15% that they're offered as a buyer's agent. Same thing on the seller side. There is a seller agent assistant, right? And the seller agent assistant's only responsibility is to unlock that door, lock that door. They show the property, they host open houses, they do things of that nature that allow you to have the leverage. You went, you sat the listing appointment, you took the listing, you got the photos squared away, you put it on the MLS, everything's squared up. Now somebody wants to go see the property. That seller's agent assistant goes out, they show the property, they host the open houses, they make sure the signs are up, they do all that kind of stuff. And those agents, same, usually get 10 to 15%. When you have an actual buyer's agent, well, that split goes up a little bit. Why? Because they may have cultivated the lead. You may have cultivated the lead. Who knows how it got cultivated, but you put it in front of that buyer's agent and you trust that that buyer's agent is going to get them pre-approved, is going to get them out to look at the right houses, and will write the offer and track the deal all the way to the closing table. Even if you have a TC, a transaction coordinator, that buyer's agent would still be heavily involved. It's not as if they showed the property and then they said to you, this is the offer they want to make, and walked away to work with the next buyer. In this case, they would stay all the way through to the closing table. Therefore, they would get a bigger split. Sometimes 50%, sometimes 60%. Depends on you and your team and how you're working with them. There's teams that have a very strong split and division between seller's agents and buyer's agents. Meaning, if a seller's agent brings a buyer to the table, some teams will force them to put that buyer with one of the buyer's agents, and they would earn a small piece of it, maybe 10%, for bringing that person to the table. Some teams don't care if you're a buyer's agent or a seller's agent. They want you to be the best agent you can be on the team. I prefer this method. I like people to find their way, and I like people to be able to focus on what they feel that they will succeed the most at. There are times where you will have a buyer's agent who just really wants to do seller side, and they want to get more listings, and you're halting them, you're stopping them, you're stunting their growth. I like to see where agents lie and where they decide to do business, and I like to allow them the opportunity to build that out. If you want to have that sort of culture in your team, the culture in which agents can decide to be seller or buyer side or work both, that only benefits you. It only benefits you. It doesn't create an animosity. It doesn't make people feel like they don't want to bring business to the table because they're going to lose that business to another agent. It makes them feel like they can bring anyone to the table, and they're going to be able to work that person all the way through to closing. And you, as the team leader, and your area leaders and your leadership team will act as the mentors that help them get to the closing table. So here you have buyer side, seller side. It's up to you how you want to build this out. There's no wrong way or right way. I have my opinions. So do other coaches out there. I would encourage you to do more research, see which position you'd like to be in, read a few great books about this. But I think that we have moved in a time where technology is such a big assistant to the types of things that we do, that there's no problem if you have an agent that wants to work both sides of the table. If they can handle the workload, support them, mentor them, teach them, help them grow. That's how you retain them. That's how you keep your team strong.